Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. CA campus is right round the corner, and a question that every CA fresher has in mind is what next? So, to provide you all insights about two really interesting fields where chartered accountants are flourishing, I would like to welcome CA Mayur, who has been working as an internal auditor of PMS, AIFs, and wealth advisory companies for the last 4 years. And he also teaches audit to CA final and CA inter students. He started his career as an article at MP Chitle and Co. and moved to EY post qualification. Hi Mayur, thanks for joining.
Thank you so much, Harsh, for inviting me. I'm really excited to have a candid chat with you, yeah.
Same goes with me. So let's start our conversation. Firstly, can you explain what exactly does an internal auditor of financial intermediaries like PMS, AIFs, etc. do, and how do you all add value to your clients?
So before I start, I'll just start explaining the difference between internal audit and stat audit. So in internal audit, basically the internal auditor is sitting with the management and understanding the entire end-to-end process on how transaction has been carried out and various operations and other areas of the company. And statutory auditor basically gives an opinion on the basis of sample verification. So internal audit उसमें सबसे पहले PMS, AIF and advisories. So out of which in PMS there is a compulsory requirement of SEBI to do an internal audit. Now why there is a particular requirement of the SEBI to do an internal audit is basically there are lot many investors who have lot of money with them. However, they don't have the knowledge on or the understanding on where their money is going. They just dump about 50 lakh rupees into a PMS fund and they just want returns out of it. So somebody has to be there to ensure that a year-long transaction, because the investment will be done by the company in the whole year. Some money would be invested in shares, it will be removed. The person will take away his money, will put his money. So you need a person who is going to end to end on a daily or at least on a quarterly basis, who is going to verify each transaction is being carried out correctly, so that at the end of the year, every investor has to be given one report, that is a disclosure report which has opening and closing and contains lot of fees in it. For example, if you start your portfolio in 100 and it ends at 150, so the person who has invested wants to be sure that these returns are correctly calculated. All the fees have been correctly calculated. What are the fees? So it can be performance fees, exit fees, various type of fees on the basis of SEBI regulations. So on an entire year, we verify each of the area on a monthly basis. And so that at the end of the year, when we do a consolidation, we are sufficiently identifiable that all the amounts are correct and we can have a sufficient opinion that the PMS balance or as on the year end for the investor has been correct. Apart from it, there are second part known as SEBI regulations of PMS. There are a lot of PMS regulations that have been come up and regular circulars have been issued by SEBI. So we do a compliance assessment of all those areas also in terms of PMS. Now AIF is a very new type of, not new, but not much people know about various category, cat 1, cat 2, cat 3, and there are a lot of complexity in each of it. It is not exactly like PMS, but a different structure that goes where a separate vehicle is being conducted and a money is invested in that vehicle, and once the project is done, that vehicle is also closed. It can either be a cat 1, cat 2, or cat 3. So on the basis of the scope that is decided from the management, we do an internal audit of AIF, which also has similar areas, but more focused towards distribution. Because at the end, the money that is invested, usually you invest in real estate. For example, Lodaka project. So you need to be sure after 5 years, the money that Lodha is giving you to the SPV, that is distributed by the AIF to the investor in a correct manner or not, on the basis of ratios that is predetermined. Also, AIF also has a lot of compliance. So as an internal auditor, you also check a lot of compliance around it. And similar is investment advisory. You give an advisory to the investors about where the funds have to be invested by actually taking that portfolio and managing the entire portfolio of that person. And also there are lot of distinguishment which has to be done between PMS funds, AIF funds, advisory funds, and client segregation. There has been recent circulars on client segregation. All this around the internal auditor verifies in a company and ensures that the money invested by the investor on the first day and what he's getting at the end is correctly calculated on.
So can you just briefly tell us what is client segregation?
So client segregation basically moves in such a way that each fund of the client has to be segregated in separate manner. There has to be a benchmarking between funds that the investors are investing. For example, the funds that are invested, for example, I am giving you advisory services. If I am giving you advisory services, I can't give you any other services other than advisory services because I am getting advisory fees from you. Now I can't charge any other fees from you. So this is basic difference between the client segregation.
Okay, fine. So is this from a point of the auditee? So example.
Yes, from the point of the auditee, from the point of the audit. So auditor has to verify if this is happening or not in the company.
Okay.
If this is not happening, then as an internal auditor, we just provide an observation and that gets discussed in the management and responses are provided on the same.
So in short, if I have to summarize this, you have to segregate the auditees like investment advisory
Right.
or a PMS, and then based on that,
PMS, right.
what amount they can charge, the kind of fees they can take from.
Correct. On the basis of SEBI guidelines, on the basis of performance, on the basis of NAV on which they have invested, and the NAV on which they are taking out their funds. Because if your starting NAV is 10, your ending NAV is 100, of course, you have given the client a performance. So, as the auditee, you have the right to charge them performance fees. Because we need to be ensured that first time performance fees is charged on this 90 ka difference. Second time, you are charging from the 100 wala NAV and not again from 10 rupees.
Okay, fine. So the same amount is not getting charged multiple times.
Correct. Because if it is excess charge, the auditee is happy, but it is not right to the client, right?
Right.
And performance fees and PMS, the basic ticket size is quite high. So
Yeah.
the performance fees that charge gets doubled and it gets into multiples of 100. So that's the issue.
Okay. So the main part is making sure that the client funds are appropriately
Exactly.
utilized, the returns are correctly calculated, and
Right.
it is compliant with SEBI regulations.
Yeah, and since you have to ensure that every month these funds are on a correct basis. The exit NAV are every month calculated on a right basis because there are going to be few clients who is going to leave you in between. So their certificate has to be issued at that point when it leaves, right? So that are called closed clients. So this activity has to be performed every month for all the fees, all the transactions that are happening for each client. This is also helpful for the auditor since when you are doing it on every month, year-end activity becomes very simple. You have to just add and be sure that that is what client is also charging them. So basically, you do a calculation on the basis of the corpus, and client would also have a calculation.
Okay.
Then you check if client has not excess charge or less charge, made fees or other transactions or expenses that has to be charged.
Okay. And can you talk about any interesting assignment that you have worked on?
So one of the interesting assignment that I worked in internal audit was with respect to a very different line. PMS, AIF, and advisories are of course there, but a very different line, which is called as compliance and analytical solution company. I think Harsh, you must have heard that these days we have to file everything in XBRL format, right? So
Right.
there's a company out there who basically provides you these XBRL services on your behalf. It files all the RBI circulars or the RBI returns in XBRL format, or it also gives you utility that helps you to file these things. So I had done an internal audit on their revenue aspects, expenses, and compliance aspect. Because see, since it's an XBRL company, even the regulators like the RBI, SEBI, they are also the client of the
Right.
company, and even companies. For example, if you have opened a company, even you want that utility to be used, right? And
Yeah.
RBI wants the utility to ensure that how many people have filed the return. So I was able to see both of the sides. Even the regulator is the client, and even any other person is also a client in that company. So this helped me to understand that there are so many new businesses which we are, as a chartered accountant, we are running behind taxation and audit, which is great, which is absolutely phenomenal. But you have to also, you can't deny the fact that technology is improving day by day, and XBRL is a thing that we were quite unaware. The company is doing great. It is currently listed, has already been listed into the BSE recently. So that is what I able to understand that. So during the articleship, we were all were searching for great firms who are providing taxation, this, that. And when I was able to do this assignment, I thought that ऐसा भी कुछ होता है XBRL, and we do an internal audit of that company, and that company is called as compliance and analytical solution company, because the software that it is providing is an analytical software, and the person who is using it, it is for its compliance. So there is a complete segment that is called compliance and analytical solution company. So I found it very interesting, so I thought to share with you.
Okay. And how is the work pressure in this field?
So work pressure is not too much. Let me be very frank with you. Okay. So how it is, internal audit, basically work pressure every day. It's all through the year. Okay. There is no specific time when you get a pressure in internal audit. 24/7 you get pressure, because either there are quarterly returns, if the quarterly reports, if the client has not agreed for quarterly reports, then you are going to do something else for the client. It's not like the statutory audit, but more aspects in this is regulatory. You can't miss any circular. And you imagine, if you calculate for 26,000 client one performance fees on your basis without reading the SEBI circular, and then you understood that there is a SEBI circular which provides some upper benchmarking about a thing, then you have to calculate everything again.
Hmm.
And see, when you calculate performance fees, every person has different corpus on different dates. You have to do an independent calculation for each client.
Right.
This will have never end for that. So you need to be careful in the regulatory aspects around this, because SEBI is quite clear with its circulars, its regulation, and these days it's putting a lot of DMAT form, maybe one securities or PMS. These days they are putting a lot of interest into PMS, AIF, and advisories. Lot of circulars have been come.
Hmm.
So if you are a person who is loving compliance, or you want to understand how a circular actually works, it's going to be very interesting. Or then, or else you will feel it's just copy paste.
Yeah.
Like other field, you will feel like it's just copy and paste. But if you understand what are you copy, because you need to have a macro for this, right? Or
Hmm.
else how are you going to do for 26,000 clients? But you need to understand why are we doing this.
Okay. Makes sense. So now we'll move to the next part, which is your teaching stint. So when did you decided that you want to become a teacher, and why audit?
So this is one of my favorite question, and it's a question where I get smile more than the corporate wala part.
Yeah.
So the thing is, during my study period, during when I was preparing for inter CA, before that, I was quite sure that I want to do something in teaching. Not sure about the subject, not sure about anything, but something in teaching. And by the time I gave my inter CA exam, I was quite sure that practical subjects is not what I will be able to crack on. Somehow I was able to manage the practical subjects. To be true, even in my final year exam, I got 40 in SFM. So somehow I am passing practical subjects. But when it comes to theory subjects, I, for a change, never get bored. I can study, I can make notes out of it, try to make even more theories out of it. Why, how, when, try to read more things into it. And I was able to, understand it better. So if you give me two subjects, you tell me Mayur, inter ka costing padna hai and audit padna hai, I will run against costing. But if you give me audit, I will be happily studying it at least. Maybe not great marks, but I will be happily studying it, because I know that I can write something in my exam which is logical.
Hmm.
So that is what inspired me to start basically a thing that I want to do something. So during my preparatory stage, be it inter CA or final CA, I ensure that the notes that are prepared are not just prepared for my exams, but I had imagined at that point that ek din aega when I will stand in one class. I don't know when is that day. That would be 10 years ahead, 20 years ahead. But these notes would be useful someday. So I wanted to prepare such a notes that is very simple and easily understood. Secondly, I ensured that while studying also, I used to get some problems. I was not able to understand a particular part. Yeah, we are able to not remember. There are a lot of concepts in
Yeah.
audit which you have to buy. Let's accept it. Some things have to be by heart, right? But sometimes you are not able to buy heart that, or there are some questions which you see this was never covered in our module or a particular theory book. I ensured that there has to be only one book which covers everything. Be it questions, there has to be only one book, and that is your book, summary book, whatever you call it, theory book. Questions are also incorporated in that. And I had prepared a small book which contained all the problems that I faced during studying final CA audit. So that whenever I clear my final CA,
Yes.
I would ensure that whichever book I make, whatever I teach, these problems are not repeated in that. So this was my basic. And your question continued with asking why audit subject. So I find audit as the most practical subject in the whole CA curriculum.
Okay.
See, when it comes to law, it is a beautiful subject. It is actually put in a great way. But finally, you have to accept कि ये ऐसा है, so you have to go like this. You can't say कि क्यों ऐसा है.
हाँ.
It has to be there. But when it comes to audit, you ask the question and you will get the answer. Why? So you will have to do some mehnat. You'll have to go to the guidance note. You'll have to go to the pronouncement. But you are going to get the answer for each and everything. And secondly, I find audit as a never-ending subject. There can be n number of examples that I can give to students connecting their real lives. On the spot, I can give them examples, which maybe in law I couldn't have been given. So I have also taught law at final CA level. I have taught law also for November 23. And luckily, I was lucky enough that student passed in law and he is a chartered accountant now. But when I was teaching law, I couldn't connect him with lot of examples because there are chapters like FEMA, which is really complicated, and you may not have actually worked on that, right? But when it comes to audit, more or less everything you come across during your articleship, more or less, some part, thoda external confirmation ho gaya. And these concepts are easily, you can relate it with your daily example. Simple examples. I wanted to be sure when I am teaching on two things. One is accept that you can't remember everything. And second, that you can't only pass audit by reading it conceptually.
Okay.
You will have to take the middle. You will have to understand it conceptually and then try to memorize it. Because that's the truth, right? In clearing the exam, you need some amount of memorization. You can't deny on this. So this helped me, and I get interest in teaching audit about the standards. I am trying to make new notes. I'm trying to make some new charts so that the 1.5 days of the student gets simple.
Right.
Everybody studies for 5 months. Final CA level, we all are studying for 5 months. Then why all are not passing? Because of this thing. That 1.5 days is almost wasted with understanding कौन सा chapter शुरू करना है.
Right.
Because there is no flow in audit. There is no flow. Some professors start with SS 700, some with 200, and some start with other order.
Yeah.
So you, as a student, I faced this problem. I was not able to complete in 1.5 days. I got stressed because FR practical, Bhagwan Bharose, SFM practical, Bhagwan Bharose. When it comes to audit, that was the only subject I was waiting कि अब ये आएगा और इसमें मैं कुछ करूंगा. And that also I was not able to cover in 1.5 days. And it is very important to cover in 1.5 days. People say कि 1.5 days में cover करने की जरूरत नहीं है, but practically, if you are not covering in 1.5 days, you are not going to remember anything in your exam.
Okay.
So you need such a book or a revision lecture that helps you to summarize entire audit as small as possible and covering the entire module content. Most important. So what was happening is whenever we refer a summary notes, we get afraid. यार इसमें पूरा है. Is everything there in this or not? But when you study from the module, you are tension free. इसके बाहर क्या आएगा? There is nothing called बाहर से आएगा. Everything is going to come from this. And just on this platform, I want to say that the new course module of audit to all those who are not able to take any class or anything, the new course module of ICAI is outstanding. First, just to tell you, there are paragraphs. Immediately after paragraph, institute has put revision chart. paragraphs, revision chart, paragraphs, revision chart. You have to refer no other material, no
Mm.
professor, nothing is required. If you don't have money and you don't want to spend, the module is your Bible. It will
Okay.
help you to clear. It's not that big also. These portion is big. It's like
Mm.
ocean, but the module is very well tracked.
Okay. So just for the students who are watching this video, can you mention how they can access Professor Mayur, and if they want to get in touch with you, how exactly they should do it?
So, yeah. So I have my Telegram channel. I think I'll request Harsh to put a link of that
Yeah,
in
I'll put it in the
his bio
description
or
box.
somewhere. So I have a Telegram channel where, so it's a very basic Telegram channel where I will be providing you with daily MCQs, and these MCQs are nothing but ICI MCQs. There is an ICI booklet of MCQs that ICI has released. What happens is during our study leave, we
Hmm.
now plan कि आज एक दिन अपन वो MCQ book लेंगे and we will try to complete it on one shot. Instead, I want to put it as a poll. Telegram, there is an option of poll
Yes.
where each day, every day, or even weekly, 3 times also, if you attempt, you
Hmm.
won't understand over a period of time. Your entire case study module of ICI is already done. This
Okay.
is one advantage. Second advantage is we all understand the classes are going on long of inter and final.
Hmm.
Every professor wants the student to bring 100 in his subject, which is not possible.
Yeah.
So once audit subject is done, he has to move to next subject. He has to study FR, SFM.
Hmm.
But what happens is you forget audit.
Yeah.
So when you try attempting MCQ, at least you will take that effort to remove some book of audit and just think, yaar, ye kidhar aaya, and that's enough.
Hmm.
For my subject, you only need that much minute.
Okay.
Because you will also agree with me, Harsh, in exams, you will be able to see the page of
Yeah.
that
Right.
theory subject and nothing
Yes.
else. Right side, left side, nothing else. This comes with multiple revision. And
Yeah.
how does multiple revision happens? In this way. So daily MCQs, the Telegram channel will also have certain important charts. There are certain important charts that are required during last minute revision, and be rest assured the charts are prepared only from module. I don't prefer any other material, only module, ICI module, and other tips and techniques to clear CA final and CA inter audit. Both
Okay.
has a common channel, both has a common Telegram channel on this. So through that they can attempt their daily MCQs, they'll understand how they have to do. And most importantly, what I follow is you have to be very happy while studying audit.
Okay.
You can't cry and study audit. There's
Hmm.
only one solution. You need to be happy. And the responsibility of being happy is not of the student. It is of the professor. He has to be so much interactive that बच्चे को क्लास में नींद ही नहीं आ रहा है.
Hmm.
अगर बच्चे को क्लास में नींद आ रहा है, it's not the mistake of the student, man. He is
Hmm.
going to articleship. He is catching the other local. He is bound to sleep. As a professor, it's our responsibility to make the subject in a fun or interesting way so that he gets a coverage and he doesn't feel the burden of audit subject because he already has the burden of 5 more subjects. And I just want to mention one thing. In the new course in finals here, there is a paper of multidisciplinary case study.
Hmm.
Auditing concepts are tested in that. So
Okay.
it is going to be a complete case study where, for example, you had a company, your company now wants registration. So you have to think about GST. After registration, your limit exceeds. Now you have to think about stat audit. Then there is some fraud. You have to think on the provisions of fraud. So if you are by hearting audit for paper number 3 of the
Hmm.
finals here, you will clear that. I'm telling you, you will clear that. But what about multidisciplinary? If you are by hearting all the stuff, how much conceptually you can apply that. So I am trying to even incorporate multidisciplinary case studies ke auditing specific parts into MCQs.
Okay.
So
Thanks for
that's
the,
how I am
yeah,
planning.
quite a comprehensive response. So another thing, internal audit, your role as an internal auditor and your role as a teacher, both of them are equally demanding. So how exactly do you
Right.
manage both of them?
So currently I'm in Ernst& Young EY internal audit, and I am doing teaching also. So if I want to be very true with you, Saturdays I wait for Saturdays and Sundays. Internal audit is extremely interesting. But after a point of time in internal audit segment, you sometimes feel that you're doing the same thing. Sometimes you will feel that. At that time, you have to ask for a client change and you are going to get that. Because number of internal audits you do, you will be able to understand each company in detail from its short. Even you will understand who is the person who is selling tea to that company. That level internal audit can go. It can go till the pin. And this knowledge helps me in my teaching also. I am able to relate concepts. If I'm doing an internal audit of a bank, we have bank audit in our syllabus also. There are certain concepts that I can be more clear, I can be more confident while teaching. So Saturdays and Sundays are reserved for my teaching. I ensure that Saturdays and Sundays I am not disturbed by anything else. And Monday to Friday is a thing that I have to enjoy internal audit. But whenever I get time while coming in the train, I ensure that I make some notes that keeps me motivated for the week. I have made something into that, like MCQs, small MCQs I'll post in the evening. This helps me motivated entirely. Internal audit is a great field to choose, by the way. It's the most lucrative field these days. There are a lot of internal audits. In certain parts, it's also called as consulting. Just for the viewers, sometimes they get so much mesmerized, like internal audit tha, yahan consulting dikh raha hai. More or less, it works on a similar lines. Not the same, but on similar lines. Consulting also gives you internal audit assignments into it, which is a great scope for learning. If you want to understand each and every company into detail, nothing like internal audit.
Okay. So coming to the last part of the interview, a lot of CA freshers and aspirants would be watching this video. Do you have any message for them?
So just if you are a person who is studying for CA final exams, CA inter exams, which is just coming May 24, and I know there is a feeling of this thing, new course, what is going to happen, first attempt, this, that, there are a lot of Instagram everywhere, anything is going on, but just cut off. Study, you can do that. It's only 6 subjects these days. It's pretty simple. What I mean is pretty simple is keep in your mind it is pretty simple, and keep in your hand it is very difficult. And let this hand keep on rolling on the books, and you just practice will make you perfect. I'll tell you my mistake that I had done, which because of which I got an attempt, is that I did not practice the sums in practical subjects because I was running from it. As I mentioned earlier, I was running from it, but you can't run from a thing, right? I had to complete 7 books of. So this much practice may not be required to a person who already have good knowledge in practical subjects. But if you are good in practical, something bad is going to happen in theory. I can just suggest is multiple revision. Now, Harsh, I'll just take you 1 more minute.
Yeah.
So there are lot of questions that I had received. Sir, आप बोलते रहते हो multiple revision, but कितना ही revision हो सकता है? There can't be more than 3 revisions. So there is a solution to it. For theory subjects, you can record your own voice. It won't take more than 5 minutes. If there is a particular standard, trust me, once your one reading is done, record it as if you're teaching it to someone. Record that standard, record that provision, keep it with you in your library. Whenever in the evening you go for a walk, put it in your ears, just walk, let it go. I am sure that you will be tired of the day and nothing would be registering in your mind. Let it not register. You just keep hearing to that recording. Trust me, in exams, it will come like so much blessing to you. In your head, the recording will start blubbering, or else you will not be able to revise three, four times. Every subject has to be revised because every professor will come and say, my subject is important. I need 100 on 100 in my subjects. So a student can't bring 600, right? He has to do somewhere up and down. He can't be bringing 600. So he has to ensure that these are small things where recordings can be done and in your own voice. Because my speed of recording, your speed of recording won't be the same. You will like your voice more than mine, right?
Yeah.
So you can hear your own recording and do multiple reviews. That is what I had done in my second attempt, which helped me to score a great amount of marks in audit and law, especially. So that is the most important thing. And all those who are searching for articles or those who are searching for jobs. I know sometimes it's up and down. There are a lot of options, there are a lot of choices, and sometimes choices makes you mad. Okay.
Hmm.
But just ensure what you like. Nothing is going to be perfect. You are feeling to get into a job that is going to be perfect. First, you have to be understand that even I was thinking I'll get everything perfect. There is nothing perfect. You will always have flaws with it. Try, experiment. If that works for you, internal audit works for you, great. If it doesn't work, no issues. We can move ahead. There are a lot of fields available to see. These days, Harsh, I have also done an assignment on IT related control, ITGC.
Hmm.
There are a lot of opportunities for chartered accountants for ITGC. There are many people who are doing CISA, DISA, and these days they're even not asking for CISA, DISA. You clear your chartered accountants, and the whole ocean is yours. You just need, if you are liking technology, there are many CAs who like technology. You have open fields in Big Four. There are a lot of areas where there are IT related fields open for a CA. Because the analytical brain of a chartered accountant has to be employed there. What, why, what if this happens, what if that happens? People are loving that these days,
Yeah.
especially the new chartered accountants. And even in articleship, these fields have been opened these days. So it is going to be a great, you are going to have a great life for all those who are searching for articleship and jobs. And for those studying, you have already got a great life. The period, even Harsh will agree to me, the happiness of studying at that 5 months, we were feeling crying, but when we are now traveling, we understand that was so much golden period. We were able to do everything at our pace. Coffee will come at our table, everything at our pace. Now nobody asks us coffee is there or not. We
Hmm.
come home, we work, we go. So everything will be perfect. God is great, and your efforts will surely pay off. Just one last thing: hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I am not at all talented, not at all. Even most of the chartered accountants are not talented. They are hardworking, and it will beat the talent if the talent is not hardworking. That's what I have to tell you.
Uh, so that was some great advice. Thanks a lot, Mayur, for your time. This was a really insightful discussion. Even I enjoyed having this conversation with you. For the viewers, if you all have any doubts, then feel free to mention them in the comment section. I'll make sure that our Professor Mayur answers every one of them. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to HJ Invests for more such interesting conversations. Stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Harsh. Thank you.